Now, drivers have been fined for speeding as a fake 50-mile-an-hour sign was put in a 40-mile-an-hour zone. The Met have said that the fines are within the law, as there were several other 40-mile-an-hour speed signs on the A20 Sidcup Road. A Transport for London spokesperson has said that the illegal sign was immediately replaced. But law companies are being contacted by hundreds of people who must either accept the penalty or challenge them in court. Nick Freeman is known to many as Mr. Loophole. How would you describe yourself, Nick Freeman?
Well, I'm happy with that moniker.
Oh, yeah.
I trademarked it. The press used it, and I ended up trademarking it. So I didn't like it, to be honest. But I thought, well, it's there, it's going to stick. So I'll have it on my own. Thank you very much.
Right. Well, good for you.
There we are.
You've happily embraced Mr. Loophole. So this is a fascinating one, isn't it? Where do drivers stand legally?
Well, as you correctly said, they've got two choices. They either roll over and accept the either a fixed penalty, if that's what's. Many motorists have gone through this area over a period of a few days and amassed several speeding tickets. I think if we unwind this a little further, and no one's talked about this, what's happened is the restriction, in my view, has been introduced using the wrong regulations. Because what they've said is, look, there's flooding on the road. There's been flooding for a long time. And what they ought to have done is used a particular section of the regulations, which would mean that there would be notice in the media and in journals. There's time requirements to comply. They haven't done that. They said, look, there's flooding, which they knew about. So we're going to dispense with all the sort of paraphernalia that normally informs the public, and we're just going to introduce it immediately. That gets round of all the minutiae, which is there for very good reasons so that the public know. So in my view, they were wrong to do that because there was a well-established flooding problem with this particular road. And my view is that the speed limit is illegal in any event.
So that's how you tackle it?
That will be my starting point.
Okay.
And the second point is there is a rogue 50-mile-an-hour speed limit sign there. The council have a legal duty to ensure that the speed limits are clear and unambiguous. And if you stick in the middle of the speed check area, which is, as I understand it, where this particular sign is, a 50-mile-an-hour sign, it doesn't matter that it's a rogue sign. As far as drivers are concerned, there's a sign there that, by and large, drivers are legally compliant within reason, within the tolerance zone. And it's caused mass confusion. And we know that because of the number of people who have been prosecuted or receiving penalties who normally have clean licenses, and they're getting 3 and 4 tickets, which potentially puts them off the road if they're convicted of these allegations.
It is a bit odd, isn't it, for someone to be charged for something that was committed by somebody else? Why would I be responsible as a driver for some Herbert, and I'm using that term advisedly. Sticking up a rogue sign?
Well, you're absolutely right. Legally, in my view, you shouldn't be. The signage, the strict compliance for signage was reduced in 2016. We have now a traffic signs manual. But nevertheless, they have to convey a clear, unambiguous message to what the speed limit is. And it's quite clear from the number of people who have who have exceeded the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, that there's mass confusion. And if there's mass confusion, it's self-evident that the 50-mile-an-hour sign has caused a huge problem. And when the police say, we've done mathematical calculations, with the best will in the world, that the police, that they might have done those calculations. I don't know whether those calculations have included the tolerance zone, which is 10% plus 1. So the prosecutions start at 10% plus 2. But in my view, it's a red herring. It's irrelevant because the signage has to be legally compliant. And I think that the police, with respect, have missed that point. So I understand why they've come back and said, well, it wouldn't really have made that much difference. It's not the point. The signs were not clear, and they've caused confusion. That rogue sign should have been taken down as soon as it was noticed. And in any event, the TfL, who I think were responsible for this, should have actually adopted a different procedure, the correct procedure. It's under Section 14. rather than under Section 10. And then, there's been a lot of talk in the papers, on the radio, etc., that this stretch of the A20 is going to be reduced. And bearing in mind, it used to be a 70 mile an hour speed limit. We're now at 40.
Yeah.
So there's two very good arguments, but I do make this point. They're general arguments. Each case stands or falls on its own merits.
How often do we get cases where somebody has put up an illegal sign, apparently just for fun?
I have to say it's the first time I've ever heard of it, and I've been doing this for over 40 years. You do have people who terrorise signage, deface it, deface cameras, vandalise them, etc. But actually to put up a rogue sign, I have never heard of that before.
No, and I suppose in a way, by talking about it, there is the chance that we might be encouraging other people to do it, which we don't want.
We certainly don't want to do that, and we should say, as we've mentioned it, that if someone is found doing that, they will be arrested and they're likely to be charged with perverting the course of justice, and they're likely to receive an immediate custodial sentence.
Okay,
so I'm sure you guys will take that on board.
Well, I mean, absolutely, it is not a laughing matter. I mean, do you honestly think that that the police are as understanding as they could be in these circumstances?
I don't really understand why they don't sit down with lawyers who tend to know what they're talking about, if that doesn't sound arrogant. And so that there can be a discussion, sensible discussion about, look, this is the law, here it is in black and white, this is what you're required to do. You doing your mathematical calculations is irrelevant. Let's look at this sensibly, because what we're doing is we're penalising people who are, by and large, law-abiding drivers, and they have catastrophic consequences for these people. We're talking about loss of jobs, inability to pay mortgages, loss of homes, potential serious catastrophic consequences for people. That can't be right. And you'd like to think the police force don't want to deal with the public like that. They're not dealing with villains. They're dealing with largely responsible, respectable, hardworking people. So that in my view, they've got it wrong. They've got the law wrong. Obviously, they're not lawyers. I don't criticise them for that. But they do have access to legal advisors, and their comments about this are complete nonsense.
Thank you very much. That is the view of the motoring lawyer, Nick Freeman, known pretty much to everybody these days as Mr. Loophole.